I won't go into the details because we've already discussed those. The second part of that bill is that it lowers the corporate income tax from 6% to 5.5%.
Senator Chase, I have on pretty good authority that there is going to be a substitute bill that is going to be offered that is addressing, not in your specific approach, but some of the points that you've touched on, but that it's going to be, the substitute is in a more comprehensive manner. So I appreciate your explanation, but if we could defer action on that and see how the substitute progresses. But thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Sure, absolutely. The second bill has to do with the coal ash bill, and as it pertains to Senate Bill 1009, Senate Bill 1743. You have before you two proposed amendments. Just as an overview, real quick, as you know, last week we had a bipartisan group of legislators, including Speaker Cox, the governor, on how to appropriately handle the coal ash. It's been a 4-year project, and we have peace in the valley, which is great. As of yesterday, whenever I came to this committee, the actual bill had not been online yet, and many of us, including the public, had not had the opportunity to review that bill. I refer to this bill as the North Carolina coal ash bill. As you recall, North Carolina has actually already dealt with this issue of coal ash. They're excavating the coal ash. It was a 44-page bill that they've put in Virginia's bill right here into 6 pages, so we're a little more efficient here. But there are a couple things that the North Carolina bill does that the governor's bill does not do. The first thing is that a number of my constituents have come to me and said, why is it the ratepayer is getting stuck with this expense of coal ash? And so, we have always said that we do believe that Dominion has been compliant with all federal and state laws. I still feel that way, and I don't feel like they should be penalized. However, with the North Carolina bill, it does have that option. I don't think it would be used in the case of Virginia. It's a very different case than the negligence that we saw in North Carolina. But I do think it's a provision that probably should be included to address some of the concerns of our constituents back home who have said, I want an option in there that if Dominion is found negligent, that there is a route for them to be held responsible as a company, and that any negligence would not be put on the backs of the ratepayer. So there is an amendment for that. It is the second amendment on the sheet that's being passed out. I think we've been able to appropriately address the first issue, which has to do with a boat ramp in Chesterfield. We want to ensure that Henricus Park is not closed, but we don't want to create special legislation as well. So we will not be advancing that particular amendment at this point, because I think we have peace in the valley between Dominion and my local Board of Supervisors in Chesterfield, so they're working on a MOU to address that issue. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to keep my comments brief. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have another bill on the docket, Senate Bill 1355, which another bill that Senator Chase has been rolled into this bill, as well as one from Senator Surville that's been rolled in. It represents a compromise that was vetted through the Commerce and Labor Subcommittee as well as the full committee. And it includes basically peace in the valley, if you will, between all the concerned parties. With a comment to Senator Chase's second issue, which we have a sheet in front of us with regards to that, I think it's important to understand, first of all, that Dominion has not violated any environmental rule or regulation with the existing coal ash ponds. And in fact, they're in full compliance with what is dictated now, which is the current rule. What we are doing here as a General Assembly is directing them to go above and beyond what is required by federal law to deal with the coal ash in a permanent setting. And so, I can appreciate the bill, but Senator Chase is already a chief co-patron of Senate Bill 1355, and I would, if you want me to deal with that right now, Mr. Chairman, I'd be delighted to deal with that bill right now.
I know you would be delighted, but out of the sake of expediency, let's do that. But I think Senator Stewart has a comment as well, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when these bills came through Commerce and Labor, it was apparent, and I think at least one person noted, that the Attorney General's office seems to be absent from this discussion. It's my understanding the Attorney General's office is charged with looking out for the consumers. I'd like to know if anybody from the AG's office has looked at this, made any determination whatsoever that this is good for, protects the consumers, because so far they just, I haven't seen them, haven't heard from them. They don't seem to have looked at this at all. And is there anybody here in the AG's office that can speak to that?
Is anyone from the Attorney General's office that is here, first of all? This is a two-part question. Well, then I would conclude it's going to be very difficult, Senator Stewart, for them to comment on it in absentia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
I am all for peace in the valley, and I think we have a great option. The only reason that I would keep this Plan B on the table is simply to have a Plan B in case, we had the press conference, but we had not ironed out all the details of it. This is a plan we know works. We have another state that's actually using it, and we have not done any testing off-site. Most of the testing has been done on the Chesterfield Power Plant location. There've been no tests off-site. We don't know how much of this coal ash is off-site, and I just think it would be premature on our part to not even include an option that would address anything that was found later down the line.
Senator Chase, I know you've got a commitment this morning. Why don't we keep your bill viable and,
I appreciate that.
alive, and let's see how things shake out on some of the other bills, and so we'll keep you advised on that.
I
But thank you
appreciate
for
that.
bringing that bill before.
Thank you. That's all I have this morning.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to go out of order once again, and I apologize for those of you who signed up. Senator Carrico has Senate Bill 1501, which is capital murder dealing with law enforcement officers. And he has some very special guests and witnesses that are here this morning, which I'm very appreciative of. But Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this is dealing with the capital murder of a police officer that, when charged under this offense, that it would require a life sentence or death sentence in that murder. I do have some witnesses here today, and they had a very compelling testimony before the courts committee, and it's here because of looking to see if there is a financial impact, which there is none, but they asked to speak today, and I'll just let them speak, and they can say more than I could ever say about this bill.
Yes, sir. We are very happy to hear from him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wayne
how are
Huggins,
you?
State Police Association. Some of you met these ladies last week, and there were other ladies with them. Unfortunately, they're working today and can't be here. We obviously support this legislation, but I want to introduce to you two of the strongest and most courageous people that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. First is Mrs. Michelle Dearmeyer, who's the widow of Trooper Chad Dearmeyer, who was shot and killed in 2016 here at the Greyhound bus station in Richmond. And second is Mrs. Betty Walker, the wife of Trooper J.A. Walker, who was shot and killed on Interstate 85 in Dinwiddie County in 2013. And rather than me testifying, I would prefer that you hear their testimony.
Good morning.
Good morning, young lady. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
It's nice to see you again.
nice
Thank
to
you
see
for
you
being here.
too.
We're very appreciative.
Jamie has to work, and she is beside herself and very upset that she can't be here to talk. So she sent something to me that I'm going to speak on her behalf. And then I would like to speak on my behalf after that, if that is
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So I'm speaking for her. Good morning. My name is Jamie Walter, and I am Trooper Michael T. Walter's wife. May 26th, 2017 at 7:12 p.m., my husband texted me to check on the kids and I. The last text I sent to him was, "Always be safe, I love you." Mike responded by saying, "Always, you're too beautiful to leave in this world alone, I love you." At 7:26 p.m., my life and our children's lives were forever changed. I can promise you Mike fought hard as he could, but on May 27th, 2017, at 5:19 a.m., my husband passed away. He was an 18-year veteran of the Virginia State Police and served in the Marines prior to joining VSP. When he was promoted to special agent, oftentimes he would work with Richmond on special projects with the Richmond City Police. That night on May 26, 2017, he and his partner conducted a traffic stop in Mosby Court. His partner approached the driver, and Mike approached the passenger side to obtain information from the person sitting there. This person refused to give his name or identification to him. Mike gave him precise instructions that he needed to get out of the car and how to do so. The passenger got out of the car, put one hand behind his back, and at that point used his other hand, creating a struggle, and then pulled a gun from the front of his pants and shot my husband one time, point blank, in the head. It was not considered by law to be a vile crime because it was only one shot. He then proceeded to run. Once he was finally obtained, he stated that he did not want to go back to jail, as he also had other charges in another county. Over several months preparing for trial, it was also determined that he would kill a police officer before he would go back to jail. He was charged with capital murder. During the sentence phase, which was about 6 hours, the defense attorneys spent 5 to 5.5 hours having various people and a psychologist testify for him. The main point being discussed was his upbringing and how horrible and devastating it was. While I am sorry that he had a horrible upbringing, that is no excuse. As children, we grow up knowing right from wrong. His horrible upbringing is no excuse to murder anyone, especially my husband. The premeditation was never heard. The body cam was never shown. On October 11th, 2018, Judge Beverly Snockles said she would need 2 minutes to determine her sentencing. 60 seconds later, she came back, apologized to my husband's killer for his childhood, then sentenced him to life and reduced the time, giving him a sentence of only 36 years. This decision was grossly insufficient, devastating, and disgusting. I do understand there was an Alford plea, but the sentencing guidelines could have been 60 years, which was the max, with no chance of parole. There have been many convictions with lesser charges that are spending the rest of their life in prison. How is that murderer does not? Regardless of what side you are on, Democrat or Republican, our law enforcement officers protect and serve us every single day. We need to protect and serve them. We have to show that we hold murderers accountable for their actions. Mike and I's children have suffered enough since their father was murdered. And now, when they are adults, the murderer of their father will be out of jail. I ask you, what does this say to my children, Austin, Mason, and Addison? What would our politicians, not only here in Virginia, but across our country, say to their children if they were in the same situation? What message does this send to our law enforcement officers? The number of officers that are killed in the line of duty is rising. Laws need to be changed, and I urge you to change them. Automatic capital murder charge with a minimum of life in prison with no parole and the maximum sentence being the death penalty. I was informed in the beginning and throughout the trial that the sentencing may not be what it should be or what I wanted it to be because it is Richmond City, and that murder is common in Richmond City, and that if it were in another county, it would be completely different. It should not be different from county to county. My faith in the justice system has been lost. I beg you to restore that for me, for my children, and other law enforcement families who I pray never have to go through this horrific experience or feel this unimaginable pain. If anything positive can come out of the tragic and devastating murder of my husband, it would be a change in laws to support our law enforcement officers who serve and protect us every day. Now is our time to serve and protect them.
Thank you for sharing her testimony with us.
Again, my name is Michelle Deermeyer, and I am the widow of Virginia State Police Trooper Chad Phillip Deermeyer, who was murdered in the line of duty March 31st, 2016 at the Greyhound Richmond bus station. Chad had approached a suspicious individual and within seconds was shot point blank in the chest, the first shot being fatal to his heart. At 37 years young, I became a widow. The moment I was told that news forever changed my life and the lives of our son and daughter, Philip and Paige, who were 14 and 11 at the time. I had to sit them down on the couch and tell them that their daddy had been shot and killed, something I never thought I would have to do. The men and women in law enforcement need our support now more than ever. It seems like every day there is a story about a law enforcement officer being murdered. Enough is enough. And I will say that again, enough is enough. Every time I hear a story about a law enforcement officer being murdered, my heart breaks because I am filled with the same emotions of March 31st, 2016, all over again. I know the journey that family left behind is about to embark on, the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the overwhelming sadness, and the hopes and dreams that will never be. Just the other day, four Houston narcotics officers were shot while serving a search warrant, and thankfully there were no fatal injuries, but injuries nonetheless that will take time to recover from both physically and psychologically. Where is the public outcry when law enforcement officers are shot? Where are the people coming to their defense? Enough is enough. People will say, well, they signed up for this job. They did not sign up for this job to have a target on their back. They did not sign up for this job to be disrespected and hated. They became law enforcement officers like my husband because they wanted to make a difference in their communities. They became law enforcement officers because they wanted to serve and protect the citizens in their communities. They became law enforcement officers because it was a calling they had. These brave men and women risk their lives every single day to serve and protect their communities. They tell their families goodbye when they leave for work, not knowing if it's the last time they'll say those words. On the morning of March 31st, 2016, when my husband kissed me goodbye, as he always did while I was in bed, both of us saying I love you, I had no idea that would be our last goodbye. People have no idea how a simple traffic stop, a simple encounter with an individual can turn deadly. Law enforcement officers are real-life superheroes. They are husbands, wives, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters who do this job to make a difference. My husband, Chad, wanted to make a difference and build positive relationships with the community, especially the youth. He was a proud father and loving husband, and his life was taken. And our family lives with a hole in our heart that will never be healed. Birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries are a reminder that he isn't here. He missed our daughter's first dance. He missed our son's first day of high school. He missed our daughter's first day of middle school. He missed teaching our son to drive. He won't get to watch our kids graduate from high school or college. He won't get to walk our daughter down the aisle when she gets married. I am here to ask each of you to stand beside these men and women in law enforcement and let them know you think their lives matter. There is a quote, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Here we are, women whose husbands were murdered while serving and protecting the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Women who stand before you pleading for the necessary changes needed to let us know that our husbands' lives did in fact matter. So please look me, look Betty, look at the law enforcement officers in this room, the Capitol Police that are here to serve and protect you every day, and tell us, are you ready to help us make that change? Thank you so much.
Thank you again, and for your strength in being here. And as you know from previous conversations we had, that I knew your husband and had been on the other side of issues with him, and he always beat me, so he was a great man. But
He was
thank
a
you
smart
really.
man.
Thank you for being here. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Betty Walker. I am the widow of murdered Virginia State Master Trooper Junius A. Walker, killed on March 7th, 2013. Walker spent the last 29 years of his career in Dinwiddie County with a servant's mentality. Dedication to his career was unsurpassed. He was a mentor to the younger troopers in the county, being a field training officer to scores of them, and a great shift partner whose reliability was constant and never in doubt. He was admired by the entire community. He was honest, fair, and a great help in times of need. We raised two beautiful and intelligent daughters who adored their dad. Being the bear of a man that he was, all the girls had to do was bat their eyes, and their daddy was mush in their hands. The girls meant everything to him. He was a loving and dedicated husband who worked hard to provide for us. We were blessed with 3 adorable grandchildren who will never know their pawpaw. Every day that Walker worked, I used to tell him to be careful, and he'd say, "I'm always careful, Betty." At the end of the shift, he always drove up and down the interstate to make sure that the road was safe. He pulled behind this guy that looked like it was a broken down vehicle. And my husband, as soon as he pulled up, was immediately shot. Then he was shot 3 more times. Each shot was lethal. He was not coming home. It was all over the news media when it first happened, of course. But as time goes on, people settle back into their daily routines, and precious memories tend to fade. That never, ever happens for our family. The pain never goes away, and we know that every single day our loved ones are not coming home. We must live with that emptiness and the constant reminder of what they lived for, but also what they died for. All of our fallen heroes gave the ultimate sacrifice of this Commonwealth, and they all deserve justice. Law enforcement worked tirelessly to uphold the laws that you all put into place. These families need to know that their lives mattered. My husband and every other police officer swore to perform their duties honestly and faithfully, and that no sacrifice would be too great in the performance of that duty. They also swore to make their entities a safer place in which to live and to be loyal and uphold the honor of their organization. Our officers gave the ultimate sacrifice. Isn't it imperative that isn't it imperative that we give them the ultimate that we can for them so that they will know that their lives matter now? And God forbid that this ever happen again, that their lives mattered. Being the oldest continuously meeting legislative body in the entire Western Hemisphere, 400 years, no, I was not there then. Virginia needs to take a stand on behalf of law enforcement and set a precedent for the rest of the country. The killing of law enforcement officers needs to stop now, and it can start with all of you, because no murderer of a law enforcement officer should ever go free. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you very much for being here. Senator Carrico, do you have any wrap of remarks and a possible motion, sir?
Can I ask a question?
Senator Saslaw has a question of Senator Carrico.
On the currently law, it's a class 1 felony to kill a policeman in the line of duty. Is that correct, Wayne?
Right, the section of the code that.
I'm curious as to what percentage of the sentences, or how many have been either less than life without possibility of parole or the death penalty itself. I mean, is this a rare situation, or is this happening a lot?
I wouldn't say that it's happening a lot, but it does happen. I can tell you that in 1989, January the 15th, Trooper Mickey Cochran came home from work. What he didn't know was lived in an apartment complex in Lorton, as a matter of fact, in Fairfax County. What he didn't know, there was a domestic dispute going on between a husband and her husband, and he walked into a shotgun and was immediately killed. Another citizen who was there was shot and killed also. That person, and he shot and wounded a third person, so there was 2 homicides and 1 serious injury. He got 55 years. He died in prison in 1995. He would have been eligible for parole. This is before parole abolition. He would have been eligible for parole in 1996. So to say that this is a common occurrence would not be true, but it is not it does happen, has happened, most recently in the case of Special Agent Mike Walters.
Does that answer your question, Senator Saslow? Thank you very much. Senator Carrico?
So just to sum up, this is trying to get to the root of what I see as trying to prevent the targets that are put on these men and women's backs. At least we got to send a message that if you pull that trigger, if you do this, you're going to serve life or you're going to die for the penalties that you've committed. And
Do you have a motion, sir?
I have a motion that we report the bill.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1501 be reported. Is there any discussion? If not, you would open the roll, sir. Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is unanimously passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going to our sign-up sheet, Senator Chapin, you were up next.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have, the first one that I have here in front of me is Senate Bill 1211. Do you have any preference on the order?
Senator Chafin, Senate Bill 1211 is in that group of bills dealing with conformity and tax policy that we vetted, I guess it was last Wednesday, and it would be our intent this morning to basically lay those aside as we try to advance a consensus bill. And then it would be my thought that all of those who had introduced bills, conformity bills, tax bills, that they would then have the opportunity to sign on to the consensus bill that we hope to advance today. So that would be the posture of your bill and all the other members who had bills in that area. So if you have another bill.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. So that would take care of 1211, the standard deduction. That'd take care of 1697, the income tax net interest bill, and also 1698, the
Okay,
guilty bill.
we'll have to put your name on there in capital letters.
So, that sounds good to me, Mr. Chairman. How about we look at Senate Bill 1274?
All right, the committee will give their attention to Senate Bill 1274.
This is a bill that I believe there is a consensus upon, and I believe that also the Division of Forensic Science supports the bill at this point. Sometime back earlier in 2018, we began to work on this bill in an effort to produce something that could help out the pharmacy schools here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and allow them to address the documented backlog that exists because of this opioid crisis and drug cases that are out there in the Commonwealth. So currently, the backlog with testing of drugs is about 13,589 cases as of January 1, 2019. So, and unfortunately, that backlog is just going to continue to increase over time. So we came up with an idea for some of the schools that represent 3 different regions in the state that were interested in this concept. And those schools are located out in Southwest, in Hampton Roads area, and in the Valley area. We came up with an idea to allow them to participate through an RFP process to bring their laboratories up to the standards that forensic science would require, and to participate in the testing of those medications. And they would be doing that at their own expense. There would be no expense whatsoever to the Commonwealth in this process. We also came up with a way to, through the procurement process, to allow them, because an RFP had been put out to help with this backlog, no
labs in the state went through that RFP process. We ended up contracting with out-of-state labs, and because of that, we came up with a process by which the in-state labs would be favored if they responded, and if all things other were equal, they would have a 10% weighting on the criteria. So this is a great economic development bill for those areas. Senator Locke joins me as chief co-patron in this because her area represents one of the laboratories one of the pharmacy schools that is out there, and it's a great opportunity for the Commonwealth to allow this to proceed.
All right, let's see if there are any questions. Any member of the committee have any questions? Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, I have an initial question. Was one of the concerns that I had with this is there's currently a requirement that any competitive bid that was received would have to be 10% less in cost. And under the provisions of this, that would trump that. In other words, this entity being created would not have to have a competitive advantage as such. And I'm not sure how we fixed that, but that was something that troubled me as I read through this.
So, Mr. Chairman, what we're trying to do is keep this business in the Commonwealth because of the economic advantages to the Commonwealth, to the areas that these schools serve, the economic advantages that are clear, present, and exist. We're trying to keep this business here in the Commonwealth.
A direct question, then, Mr. Chairman, would be if we were to change that provision somehow so that it would ensure that it was a competitive in-state price, would that be a killer for you, or is that something you could live with? I'm not sure exactly how we do that as far as wording.
Mr. Chairman, all parties that have looked at this, including the administration, the Division of Forensic Science, everybody's in approval of it. The situation is why would we use these laboratories as opposed to some other large group that does millions of these testings?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say it's kind of like why we buy steel from China, because we're saving the taxpayers' dollar sometimes. It's just a competitive environment. And I would think that if we're going to do it in-state, we should be able to be competitive on price. And that was the concern I had, and I just wanted to share that with you.
Senator Chafin, I have a question. Why would we not be better served to provide greater funding to the Department of Forensic Science?
So, Mr. Chairman, I would say to you that the backlog is so sufficient right now that applying greater funding is not going to, we're chasing the bus, and the bus has already left the depot, would be my suggestion to you. And I would say also that we have these pharmacy schools that are in areas which are economically depressed. And this allows them an opportunity to both have some economic activity by the creation of these laboratories.
I get that part of you, Bill. I know where you're going, Senator
And
Chafin.
allows for clinical work to be done by students in those areas. So it's a win-win for the Commonwealth.
All right, well, let's see what this young lady has to say, if you don't mind, please, sir.
Hi, Ashley Allen on behalf of Appalachian College of Pharmacy. I think I can maybe help a little bit with this. Part of the issue is that they're currently contracting already for these services, but out of state. And so I think the hope is that they could bring these back in state with a program like this. If you gave more money, they would still be contracting with an out-of-state provider, which is creating issues for law enforcement and having to drive the samples to and from the different facilities. And it's also creating a problem with a backlog and the number of cases, and the time it's taking to get a test for cases can be up to a year.
I would have a question. I mean, I'm generally professionally on the receiving end of the forensic information that is delivered, but I have absolutely no perspective of the dollars that we're talking about. Do you have any idea what the projected dollars would be?
Mr. Chairman, I do not, but there might be somebody here from Division of Forensic Science that could address that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there any members of the committee have any further questions? Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in favor of the bill? Is there anyone in the audience who has a different perspective on the bill? Is there anyone in the audience that has any idea what kind of dollars and cents we're talking about?
Mr.
Does
Chairman.
anybody in the audience care about this bill?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Senator Chafin is always looking for ways to revitalize the economy in Southwest Virginia, and actually this would have a dual purpose. It could potentially do that and also meet a need that we have in the state. The concern I have is about the cost drivers and the competition. I think if we pass this bill, which I'm inclined maybe to support it, would be to put some language in the budget to basically control where we go from here with this in terms of potential development of this entity and how it would come online and that type of thing in terms of basically studying how we make this work out. Because this isn't going to happen tomorrow, right? We don't have this entity in place currently. Is that correct?
Correct. This is, the college would like to build a facility
Right.
and put equipment in place to be able to do this and to be able to help with the backlog.
Okay, so I would support the bill with the understanding that we may put some somewhat controlling language in the budget to see how this would move forward.
I understand, Mr. Chairman. I do want to be clear that the cost of the building of the facility, the laboratory, all that's private investment in the communities in which these would occur.
Thank you. That was my next question. All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1274, as offered by Senator Chafin, is before you.
Mr. Chairman, with that understanding, I would move the bill be reported.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1274 be reported. Any further discussion? If not, you would open the roll, please, sir.
Thank you.
Ayes 15, no zero. Senate Bill 1274 is reported with the understanding that we're going to put some budget language in there. So thank you for bringing that to us, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have next Senate Bill 1529.
1529, yes, sir.
So this is a crime commission bill unanimously recommended and endorsed. It simply adds 6 additional offenses to the requirements where fingerprinting are required. And those offenses are driving a commercial vehicle after being disqualified, commercial DWI, refusal of breath test second, DWI refusal within 10 years, cruelty to animals, drive a school bus while required to register with sex offender registry, and elude police.
All right, does any member of the committee have any questions of Senator Chafin regarding Senate Bill 529? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 529 be reported. Any discussion? If not, if you'd open the roll, please, sir. All right, thank you very much. Senate Bill 1529 is reported. Thank you, Senator Chafin.
Mr. Chairman, I also have Senate Bill 1649, which is another crime commission bill. This bill would change the penalty for a bail bondsman who is engaged in their services, who has carnal knowledge.
What bill is that?
1649.
Mr. Chairman.
Is it not reported yet?
This bill is not on the docket.
I
Mr. Chairman.
apologize.
It's all right.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDougal.
There is the converse number 1469, which we took up in subcommittee this morning. And Mr. Chairman, that bill deals with timber sales, and the way it originally came to us was the same penalty as larceny, which creates a 20-year maximum penalty, which would have had a physical impact. The patron had a substitute for us in subcommittee, which struck that language out and only now has a penalty of a Class 1 misdemeanor, which would eliminate the physical impact of the bill altogether. And we got assurance from from everybody that was the case. So, Mr. Chairman, I move the substitute to Senate Bill 1469 that strikes out the felonious portion of that bill.
There's a second. It's been moved and seconded that an amendment in the nature of the substitute to Senate Bill 1469 dealing with timber sales and theft be adopted. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the substitute is adopted. Do you have a recommendation from the Public
Mr.
Safety
Chairman,
Subcommittee?
The Public Safety Subcommittee unanimously recommended that that bill be reported in the amended form.
Okay, is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded that the amendment in the nature of substitute to 1469 be reported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, open the roll. The bill is reported 16-0.
Mr. Chairman, I anxiously await to return on Senate Bill 1649 another day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Deeds, you're next, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I've got Senate Bill 1473. It's a claims bill for Gary Bush. In 2006, there were 2 bank robberies. This is a case that all of a sudden chill down the spine of every trial lawyer. About 2006, there were 2 bank robberies in the Petersburg area. 4 eyewitnesses identified Mr. Bush as the perpetrator. He was convicted of both. He received a 12-year prison sentence. After he'd served about 11 years, somebody else came forward and confessed to the crimes. So in 2018, a writ of actual innocence was granted by the Court of Appeals. And this claims bill, while we can't give Mr. Bush back the 11 years of his life that have been taken, this claims bill used our typical formula, attempts to respond in some positive way by giving him some money and some training through the community college system. And Mr. Bush is here, and his lawyer from the Actual Innocence Project, Jenny Givens, is here as well, if you have questions.
Does any member of the committee have any questions regarding this very unfortunate situation that Mr. Bush had to endure? Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second to report the bill? Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. There's a technical amendment, Senator Deeds. I apologize.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Deeds, I apologize. On line 89 of the bill, where we reflect the tuition that he is eligible for, the code allows to provide a maximum of $10,000 of career and technical training. The bill reflects 15. That was a drafting error, so I have an amendment to change that to 10.
Like I'm going.
Senator Hanger moves and Senator Howell seconds that we adopt the amendment as reported by Lisa. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. I believe Senator Vogel moved and someone seconded that Senator Sasslaw seconded that Senate Bill 1477 as amended be reported. If you'd open the roll, please.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bush, we extend our greatest apologies to you, and I know that the monetary compensation can't replace those years, but that's the best we can do, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Next is Senator McPike.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning,
members
sir.
of the committee. If we could start with Senate Bill 1171. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Senate Bill 1171 establishes a limited 12 times a year special events license for instance, we several years ago passed the commercial lifestyle bill, which allowed premises within a commercial district to allow alcohol sales if they have, for instance, open events or between restaurants. This would apply to a similar context for downtown bids, historic districts. The city of Manassas, which I represent, has First Fridays where they actually close the streets. They have entertainment in the streets, and this would allow the same sort of secure framework that we previously agreed to under the commercial lifestyle bill. So it does have a limited provision for 12 events per year. It does require the approval of the local government as well as the coordination with ABC to achieve the permit.
Let's see where you are. It had a pretty good vote in rehab and social services.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Senator
Mr.
Haynes.
Chairman, this was vetted in rehab. It has a positive impact, and I think there's consensus. I move the bill be reported.
It's been moved and seconded, Senate Bill 1171 be reported. Is there any discussion? Has previously been vetted through the appropriate committee?
Let the good times roll, Mr. Chairman.
If you'd open the roll, please, sir. Ayes 14, no 2. Senate Bill 1171 is reported. Thank you very much for bringing that bill to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The next bill is Senate Bill 1671.
Yes, sir.
This is a bill in relation to allowing some of our existing nonprofit gaming context to allow electronic pull tabs in premises that have ABC permits. So essentially, this allows the electronic pull tab in on-premise license, that would be restaurants in Virginia, to allow American Legions, VFWs, others who have gaming provisions to have, much like those smaller either iPad or electronic pull tab machines in those restaurants. One of the issues that I think Senator Cosgrove has brought up over the years is sort of the non-charitable gaming of these machines has proliferated. This has put our VFWs, American Legions, and other charitable gaming organizations at a significant disadvantage. This would help to level the playing field, and we've been working with them over the last several months in putting this together. It does have a fiscal impact, but as you'll note, it does have the 1.125 audit fee, so it's anticipated that actually there would be a net positive depending on the application and number of machines allowed. And I think there's open to discussion in terms of a limitation of the numbers of machines. We had some discussion in general laws, Mr. Chairman. And to follow up on a question from Senator Ruff, this would not allow this application in convenience stores, solely restaurants. So I know that was one of our follow-up questions.
Just reading the summary of it, if a group already has a charitable gaming permit, does the Department of Agriculture, are they mandatorily required to extend this license without regard to any review?
They would still have the same review process, in other words, the same audit and other issues. But if it's an existing and approved, then yes, they'd be required to issue. But it's still under the same provisions of any other violations or subject to this chapter that would not exclude them.
Well, just looking at the bill, it says a special permit shall be granted to a qualified organization, which seems to be a mandatory provision to me.
That's right, but they would still be covered under the rest of the existing regulatory framework, as Mr. Chairman, what I was indicating to.
Okay. Does any member of the committee have any questions? If not, are you dying to speak, sir?
I don't know if I'm dying to speak, but Chris Peterson, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Virginia Charitable Gaming Council.
Yes, sir.
We rise in support of the bill. Our organization represents the participants in the charitable gaming industry, including the American Legion, VFW, AMVETS, Moose, Elks, Fraternal Order Police, some of who are with me today. We believe in order for charitable gaming to continue their good programs, that we have to modernize and sort of adopt charitable gaming to what's occurring. I would emphasize that this is not something new. We already have a regulatory framework. We already have state regulations on standards. We know where the money goes. We know it goes to local charities, good programs. So this is not something new. It's just sort of a modernization of the system.
A modernization bill. I bet I'm going to hear that echo before this day is over again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1671 is before you. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1671 be reported. If you'd open the roll, please, sir. Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported. Thank you, Senator
Thank you, Mr.
McPike.
Chairman.
Senator Reeves. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I think we have Senate Bill 1668.
Direct your attention to 1668, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is a bill that was worked on in the subcommittee over the summer. As you probably recall, and I know your co-chairman, Senator Hanger, serves in the rehab committee, was discussed about distillers and how much they make and how much profit they can keep and how we work all this stuff in with ABC and Travis and his organization. Well, Mr. Chairman, we did a lot of work on it, and this bill is a summary of that work. Believe it or not, this isn't going to cost the state money, but actually bring some revenues into the state. And what it's going to do is allow distillers to go from 15% to 20%. And the reality is they're still losing 2% in the red, but it beats where they were at 25%. And then in order to offset those costs, we are asking to move the time to which we open our ABC stores from 12 to 10 a.m. when normal retail stores are typically open, Kohl's or any of Best Buy or any of those on those days.
It looked like it came out of Rehabilitation and Social Services with a reasonable vote. Let's see where we fall on
Yes, sir. That's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
On it. Is there anyone in the audience who is opposed to Senate Bill 1668?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Senator Hanger.
Thank you. I think Senator Reeves has done a good job of putting the bill together, so not major opposition, but I continue to fight losing battles. I never liked opening the ABC stores on Sunday, so I'll be registering a no vote because of that.
Where are you getting your Sacramento wine?
Well, that's the whole deal with this. His bill allows the ABC stores to open at 10 o'clock so that you can pick it up on the way to church.
It's another modernization bill, Senator Hanger. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1668 is before you. It's been moved and seconded. Senate Bill 1668 be reported. Any discussion? Hearing none, open the roll. Ayes 12, no 4. Senate Bill 1668 is reported.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Reeves. Senator Peterson, yes, sir. Good morning to you. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, may it please the court, this is the sports betting bill.
We are very powerful, but we are not a court today.
Yes, sir. May it please the committee. Senate Bill 1238, which is the bill on sports betting, legalization of sports betting. Basically, it would take the existing prohibition on gambling that we have in the code right now and carve out an exception for sports gaming, which is defined in my bill. My bill I'm going to refer to as the bricks and mortar bill, and I know Senator Wagner has the same bill in the same area, but I want to talk about this bill. I filed this originally as a bricks and mortar bill. I have a substitute to distribute, which I would like to do that, Mr. Chair.
Let me ask a question before. Lisa, is the substitute that I'm going to offer encompassing any of the provisions of Senate Bill 1238 as the substitute is being distributed?
It is 1238.
I understand. I'm asking, does the Virginia Sports Betting Department bill that Senator Peterson offered have any contradictions to the substitute I'm going to offer on a larger gaming bill? Okay. All right.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and the substitute is adopted.
And
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, while that's being distributed, let me break down what the substitute does differently. My original bill was solely a bricks and mortar bill. It would have allowed sports gaming at existing betting sites, which is to say Colonial Downs and any off-track betting site, and at any locality which would pass an ordinance by referendum, which would allow sports gaming within that locality. And that was basically the guts of my bill. I still have that, but I basically adjusted it somewhat. I recognize that the online platform is obviously popular, and there's a lot of money already moving through the online platform. I still don't want to get away from the bricks and mortar model, because for me, that drives what the commerce and the jobs and basically the economic development aspect is. But I do recognize that the online platform will bring revenue to the state. So basically, what the substitute is it allows the bricks and mortar approach that I already have, where you have a license to horse racing and off-track betting locations right now. You will then have an additional 5 locations that will be allocated to bricks and mortar locations through the process that I've already set up, where a locality could approve that by referendum. You would have all the licensing going through the state as I have right now. I don't use the Virginia Lottery, and I'm open to that discussion, but I would set up a separate gaming authority to actually handle this. I do believe it's a specialized enough entity that it ought to be that way. Then, where the substitute is different is I have 3 additional licenses for a sports betting platform, which is defined therein. That would be the online betting that you've heard about. At least one of those 3 would be reserved for a bricks and mortar vendor. So in other words, if someone came in to Virginia and opened up a bricks and mortar sports book, maybe it was through a casino, maybe not, they would then have one of the online licenses. And the reason is I want to incentivize people to actually come in here and invest money, as opposed to just creating virtual jobs on the internet. Let's talk a little bit about revenue. The revenue, first of all, the bricks and mortar, the license for opening a sports book would be $50,000, $100,000 for online. The tax that I have set up, at least for the bricks and mortar, would be 15% of the handle, which, as I understand, is the gross revenue minus the payout, but the actual handle that would be handled, that would be received. Of that, and I've had multiple conversations with Colonial Downs, 2.5% of that 15% would go back to the horsemen, which I think is consistent with how that's handled right now. So the tax on the bricks and mortar would be at 15%. Now, of that 15%, that would be divided, with half going to the locality, which would approve it, and then the other half going to the community college fund, which was how I had originally targeted my money. As to the online sports betting platform, and this may be where mine is different than the others, I would not try and set that amount right now, because quite frankly, I don't know what the right number is. And you don't have any of the same, to me, infrastructure costs in terms of creating jobs, having to employ people. To me, it's a sports betting platform is quite frankly a license to print money. I would actually have the folks that want those sports betting licenses to issue an RFP and let us know what they can do for us. So I would have that money, that percentage set by an RFP. Regardless of that money through the online platform, I would split it evenly between the general fund and the community college as the beneficiary. So I have all kinds of statistics on the amount of money that could be raised. One of the tip sheets I have says a majority of Virginians already invest approximately $250 million right now in gross sports betting revenue. So if you're talking 15% of that right off the top, you're talking about $37.5 million. Now, again, that's what we know about. That's without any of the bricks and mortar locations or anything right now. I'll simply say that I'm not a gambling guy. I never really bought into this. I was in London in 2016 when the Redskins played the Bengals. I went to Ladbrokes, put down 500, and even though we didn't win the game, we did cover. So little known fact. But the bottom line is, I've seen, with the Supreme Court decision, this is now basically something every state's going to have to handle. And I think in UK as in other places, professional sports, it has been an acceptable venue. And that's my bill.
Okay.
Thank you,
Is anyone
sir.
here, is there consensus on this? Anyone here in opposition to this bill or any provisions of this bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wagner?
I would point out that as Senator Peterson said, I have a bill, and my bill would be really in direct conflict with the bill. And I can break it down to the basics of it. My bill allows a lottery to run the sports betting operation. And as Senator Peterson said, he has a tax rate of 15% on the handle. The handle would be the difference between what's bet and what's paid out. That's great. You take 15% of the handle, or if we have the lottery run it and hire a private operator for a small percentage, we would make 100% of the handle. And I think if we're going to go down this road, and I think we probably are, I would rather see the taxpayers of Virginia get the full benefit of that and collect all of the money. And I will point out, although Senator Peterson wasn't here in the December meeting, Mr. Chairman, when we had the meeting of the Finance Committee, Mr. Hall from the Virginia Lottery was here. And I specifically asked Mr. Hall the question, could you handle it? And they said they are more than capable of handling this operation and more than handling running of it. So, the question boils down to, do we want 15% of the handle, or do we want 100% of the handle? And I'm here to say that I believe that 100% of the handle is better off for the taxpayers of Virginia. We know how always the needs of our localities and the needs of the Commonwealth far exceed our ability to pay for them year after year after year. The 28 years I've been here, we've never been in a situation where it isn't, and I suspect this year is no different with $6 billion worth of budget amendments sitting on your desk right now, Mr. Chairman. And so I would hope that we would look at my bill in context of that and not act favorably on this bill.
Okay. All right. Having heard that, Senator Ruff, both these bills come through your committee?
Yes.
Okay. Where we at?
Where we are at, I do not know, but in my opinion, I believe that we ought to look at this for a year, and maybe J-Lark or somebody who does careful work could look at them and decide whether it's the right policy for the Commonwealth.
Mr. Chairman, I would say, with all due respect to J-Lark, we decide what's the right policy for the Commonwealth and not the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission. And we are the policy-setting body, and I would hope that we would move forward with this. And I will point out, and maybe I ought to have staff, I was waiting for my presentation, but if staff wants to assemble this is an article out of today's New York Times talking about New Jersey, talking about 12 other states moving down this road. I will point out that they estimate that some $6 billion is going to be bet on the Super Bowl alone. So if you assume Virginia's got a percentage of that, or divide 50 states by 60, that would indicate that over $100 million will be wagered in Virginia alone. It will also say that 95% of that will be conducted illegally. So you can weigh that one way or the other, but the handle on something like that, assuming a 10% handle, that's $10 million that would have been realized by the general fund. Under my legislation, it's not going to be realized, and I'm afraid, Mr. Chairman, that we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we have a saturated market. And once again, I will say that the lottery says that they're more than capable of bringing on these additional duties. We already have a staff in place. So.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ralph?
I did not mean to say that I thought that J-Lark should be making policy, but I think that there are conflicting numbers, and I think that if we can get it lined up in the course of the next year, then we can more properly deal with this issue.
Okay. All right. It appears that, Senator Peterson, that your bill needs to be considered at the same time we consider.
I agree with that 100%.
Okay. And it also appears to me, and we're already scheduled for a meeting tomorrow afternoon, which is going to be heavy. We don't want to put things off, but I'd like to see some consensus developed on this because there's a big divide between the two bills. And if in fact we can't come to consensus on that, we may have to go Senator Ruff's direction.
May I ask one question, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
And I'm aware of the lottery versus having a private operator. I don't know what other distinctions there are, whether Mr. Senator Wagner has online versus bricks and mortar or how that.
Mr. Chairman, I would anticipate online. Lottery says they're perfectly capable of handling that. Unfortunately, I don't have a team of lobbyists because there's no special interest behind this, and the governor with his current position means that we won't see people from the lottery here, so I'm a team of one presenting this, and quite frankly, I think the issue is, do we want to make 15% of the handle, or do we want to get all of the handle and pay an operator to do it for us? So, I mean, it really boils down to that simple question.
Okay. Senator Howe?
Yes, as I'm looking at the two bills, it appears that Senator Peterson's exempts the winnings from state and local taxes, but Senator Wagner's does not.
Mr. Chairman, that would be consistent with IRS code, and if you if we're to win a big lottery ticket, I can guarantee you before your accountant gets to you, you will see folks from Virginia Tax and the IRS visiting you to ensure that they get their cut of the action before you see anything coming to you.
Okay. Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to, I've tried to do a quick look. This is real deep information here. And I like the point of us getting all the money back. So is that between the two patrons, is there a possibility of merging this one with the one that's getting all the money back, and then there might be some policy that the other one might be interested in? Just saying, Mr. Chairman, I always try to find a reasonable way of a.
I'm happy to talk to Senator Wagner. I have concerns about whether, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, go ahead.
I say, I don't, far be it from me to lecture about the free enterprise system, but I wonder about whether or not you're going to get someone to actually invest in this system
Okay.
if we have the Virginia lottery and not a private actor, but,
Right.
you know, who knows?
Sure. I know everyone's busy, but it appears that we don't have consensus, and it would be better to have that conversation. One question I would ask is, is your bill wide open like West Virginia? Or is West Virginia, you could gamble on whether or not I'm going to win my next election?
I have it just professional. I would never. I don't know if I can find a bookie to take that one.
What are the odds?
Mine is limited. Mine is limited to professional sports.
Okay, professional
Which I think
sports,
is a
okay.
defined term.
Senator Wagner, yours the same posture?
No, it does involve collegiate sports as well as.
Collegiate sports,
yeah.
okay. All right, I think with, Mr. Chairman, if you have no objection, that we pass this by, let them try to work it out a bit.
We will pass this by temporarily, and I know that there will be a meeting of minds in the prayer session, so thank you for doing that. I know that there are a couple of different groups that are here on some bills, and I just wanted to announce that there's going to be a little bit of a change in our approach today. If in fact you are here either as a patron of one of the many conformity bills, or you are here as someone who wants to advocate for against conformity bills, these bills will not be taken up this morning. What is going to happen is that we are going to go through part of the calendar on the floor of the Senate and take a recess, and the Senate Finance Committee will reconvene over in the Capitol to address the conformity bills. And I would say it's no surprise that I expect a substitute a comprehensive substitute will be offered to address some of those conformity bills, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way things will come out. But that's what we're planning on doing. All right, with that, Senator Sturdivant is next on the list.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, sir.
Members of the committee.
What bill would you like to take up first, sir?
Going in numerical order, Mr. Chairman, the first one is Senate Bill 1419. This is the micro-credential program that I presented to the subcommittee yesterday afternoon. This was brought to me by Code VA, which is the nonprofit organization that does computer science training and work with a lot of our schools. And this essentially is a new modernization program for teacher credentialing and professional development. These micro-credentials will allow teachers to get these
Let's see if this doesn't come out on a subcommittee report. I think I don't think it's in any harm whatsoever, sir.
Okay.
You've been very persuasive up to this point. We've appreciated your eloquence.
All right, thank you. You'd like me to go to the next bill?
It came out of the, first of all, the matter came over from Education and Health on a 15-0 vote, was re-referred to the Senate Finance Committee. The Senate Finance Subcommittee on Education has recommended it 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, this bill, as it has been amended by Education and Health, has no current fiscal impact, and as a result, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the bill be reported.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1419 be reported, and it's a micro-credentialing program that we're familiar with. Is there any discussion? If not, if you would open the roll, please, sir. Report the bill, please. Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported. What's your next bill, sir?
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 1420, this is, creates an ABC license for co-working establishments. As I'm sure many of you are aware, as more and more folks are working as entrepreneurs and freelancers and smaller businesses that are not necessarily having a traditional office space, these co-working establishments have been developing all over the Commonwealth. I have several in my district. This was brought to me by constituents who own Gather, which is one of these co-working establishments that has a couple of locations as it's expanding into Hampton Roads. And the idea is for them to be able to offer beer and wine at networking events in the evening, after 5 p.m. for a short period of time, and for obviously those who are of legal age. But this would allow them to have an ABC license to do that, Mr. Chairman, and sets up the tax for the license to do that.
All right, let's see. Anybody in the audience who wants to speak in favor of this? Anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this bill?
Who be reported, Mr. Chairman?
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1420 be reported, and that's a ABC co-working establishment. Any discussion? If not, open the roll. Ayes 14, no 2. Senate Bill 1420 is reported. Your next bill, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 1527 is a charitable gaming bill that I'm bringing on behalf of my grandmother. This is a bingo bill, Mr. Chairman, and it removes the restrictions on the number of calendar days that charitable gaming may be conducted at bingo halls owned by nonprofit entities, and it also raises to 4 days the number of days that such gaming may be conducted in buildings owned by for-profit entities. In addition to that, current law limits the number of bingo games per session to 55. This bill takes away that limit. And then it also increases the number of electronic pull tabs that are available in the social quarters of the qualified organizations, the bingo halls, from 9 to 50, and allows the bingo halls to pay their folks who are actually putting on the games, calling the games, the bingo games, up to $50 per session. So this is just a relatively modest modernization bill for the bingo halls.
All right, any member of the committee have any questions of them? If not, gentlemen, if you would be succinct in your support, we would appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Benke with the Virginia Charitable Bingo Association. We fully support the bill, and our legislative director, Chuck Lesson's here.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
It's been a
members
long
of the
journey
committee.
for you, hasn't it, sir?
It has. Our Virginia Charitable Bingo Association, along with the Virginia Charitable Gaming Council, support this bill. It is, as the previous speaker said, a very simple bill. We appreciate the senator's help. It does, I know we've used the word modernization, but this is what really happens. And simply put, now we're limited to the numbers of days of the week we can play. This just sort of opens that up and really doesn't do a whole lot more than that. And we appreciate your support.
Thank you for being here, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kevin Carroll, Legislative Chairman for Turn Order Police of Virginia. We do support this legislation. We have multiple lodges across the Commonwealth that use bingo as a way to raise money to give back to the community for our Chris with a Cop program and many of the other programs we do to work with the youth, PLLs. So we support the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us, sir. Anyone who has a different perspective that they would like to express on it? If not, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1527 is before the committee.
Mr. Chairman, the overall would be a positive revenue impact, but not to the state. There would be additional oversight required, but it appears that would be a wash in that we would have to, our notes indicate we'd have to pick up one FTE perhaps but the overall revenue impact, which would go to local governments, would be, sir, you want to speak to that?
Just quickly, Senator, to say that we would only need an additional inspector if more charities wanted to game, and if that happens, those charities would be required by existing statute to pay the 1 1/8% audit fee. So it looks like it would be a plus for the Commonwealth if that indeed were to happen.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Move the bill be reported.
It's been a motion to report Senate Bill 1527. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded 1527 be reported. If you open the roll, please, sir. Report the vote, please.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. Senate Bill 1527 is reported. Your next bill, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next bill is Senate Bill 1531. This was my modest bill to increase the standard deduction by a little bit, and I understand that will be addressed in another piece of legislation.
That is correct, sir. Okay. We will pass that by temporarily. Yes, thank you very much. You have another bill.
Last bill is Senate Bill 1532. This is the pilot program for STEM apprenticeships or internships for Richmond City Public School students that I presented to the committee tomorrow. You were very kind to give me a little bit more time to move it from being a tax credit to a grant, as Senator Hanger was able to fix last year in the Senate version of the budget. And so I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute conforming my bill to the way that Senator Hanger fixed it last year to make it a grant program, but otherwise the bill is the same in terms of the mechanics, that it's a pilot program that would be eligible for 25 Richmond City High School juniors and seniors. All
right, let's get the substitute before. Senator Hanger to move, Senator Howell second. The substitute be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it's adopted. Tell us what the substitute does that the original bill did not do, please.
Instead of it being a $2,500 a semester tax credit to the employer, it is simply a grant in the same amount.
Does any member of the committee have any questions of the senator regarding Senate Bill 1532? Is anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor? Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1532, amendment in the nature of substitutes before you, Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, this fixes our credit issue versus a grant, but it would have a potential impact of 100. Is that what you're coming up with, Senator Newman? Senator Newman? Oh, you want to make that motion?
If you say so, yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, it needs the clause, so it's a good program, but I think we need the clause. I would so move.
It's been moved and seconded that the Senate financial contingency clause be added to Senate Bill 1532. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of adopting that amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, that amendment is adopted. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill 1532, an amendment in the nature of a substitute as amended, is before you. It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Any discussion? Hearing none, open the rolls. Get Dick. Report the vote, please.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill is, 16, the bill is reported. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your succinctness. Speaking of succinctness, Senator Serville.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, committee. This is, I think, one of my coal ash bills. I have two. I'm anticipating this to be rolled into Senator Wagner's bill. I did hear some of the questions that were asked of when Senator Chase was up by Senator Stewart, and I did get the AG to come over here if there are any questions that they might be able to answer.
Mr. Chairman, do you just want to do the bill? It's all been rolled in together. I can step out front and we'll get this off the docket.
Yes,
all
sir.
of the bills. Okay, thank you.
Let's go ahead and do that.
But I have no problem with this being rolled into the whole package.
Mr. Chairman, you have Senate Bill 1355, and the chief co-patrons of 1355 are myself, Senator Surabel, Senator Dance, and Senator Chase. What the bill does is address the coal ash piles that are located in Chesapeake Bay watershed. There are 4 of those, one located in Possum Point in Prince William County, one of them located at Bremo, the power plant at Bremo in Fluvanna County, one of them located in the city of Chesapeake on the Elizabeth River, and the 4th one located in Chesterfield County. What the bill does is set up a criteria whereby we can permanently deal with the coal ash deposits in those 4 locations, one of which is still active, and that would be the plant in Chesterfield County, which is still online and producing electricity at this point in time. I think it's important for the committee to remember, Mr. Chairman, that right now Dominion Energy expends about $100 million per year just testing groundwater, treating rainwater, doing these things with these existing coal ash piles, constantly monitoring and having to do some remediation work. If we don't address these problems in a permanent nature, these problems will continue, and the ratepayers of Virginia will continue to absorb these costs ad infinitum until at some point, perhaps a future EPA eventually says, you got to do what we're getting ready to do with this bill, Mr. Chairman. And
Do you anticipate any opposition, Senator?
I do not
All right,
anticipate any opposition.
Let's see if we can
but
expedite it. Is there, I know that there are those in the audience who are enthusiastically supportive, and we appreciate that. Is there anyone in the audience who is opposed to these bills? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Brett Vassy, President and CEO of the Virginia Manufacturers Association. I'm not here to oppose the bill. What I want to make comment on is that there are perhaps some oversights in the bill based upon the policy discussions we've been in that you may want to take a look at before you vote on today. And if I could indulge the chairman, just 3 of them.
Well, let me try something. Senator Wagner, I know that you've been in the vortex of the discussions on this. Has there been any consideration by the senators that are advocating these coal ash bills to consider the manufacturer's suggestions?
Mr. Chairman, the bills have been submitted a long time. There was ample time to talk. We went through a full vetting of a subcommittee 3 times. We went through, obviously, the full vetting again at the Commerce and Labor Committee. People keep stashing amendments on my desk left and right, both members as well as that.
Really, that happens?
It's amazing. Actually, in 28 years, just wish I could tell you it's the first time it ever happened, but it continues to happen. And while I appreciate the concerns, we're still halfway through the process, and I understand there's a House bill that would be coming over. So I think there's ample time, not in the Finance Committee where you're taking up the policy decision of the cost or the impact of the budget.
Well, while nobody in the audience understands that you and Senator Survell appreciate that, I like to kind of cut to the chase. And so are you receptive at this point to passing the bill by and to accepting any additional amendments?
Not at this point, Mr. Chairman. I would be receptive as a House bill comes over to the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee considering those, and eventually, as we all know, we'll run to a consensus where we may end up in a committee of conference to hash out the final things. But I think this right now is be an appropriate time to take up something without all the players in here, and you certainly don't want to hear a discussion between the governor's office, of which I know the secretary's here, as well as the representatives from Dominion and every other interest group. So I would hope that we move this forward at this point in time. But I can assure the concerns of manufacturers will continue to be addressed as we move through the process.
Well, I know that you're an eminently reasonable and receptive senator, as is Survell, and I'm certain that if he brings those to your attention, that you will consider them. And Brett, I didn't mean to cut you off by any means. I'm just trying to get to the bottom line here. All right, Senator Wagner.
So with that explanation, Mr. Chairman, if you want me to continue a diatribe, but basically...
No, I don't want you to replicate Senator Survell, so if you've got a motion, that might be...
I would move to report the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, Senator Hanger?
Thank you. It was my understanding Senator Survell wanted his bill rolled in. Is that accomplished? He wants it...
Mr. Chairman, I believe Senator Survell always trying to be more than competent, has put in a couple of bills on this, did you not?
she still wants to
Okay.
fight.
He put in two of them. One of them was referred to this committee because we ruled it out of hand and thought perhaps if we looked at the fiscal impact of it, we didn't. But Senator Surville, my understanding,
All right, we got it. Senator Hanger
he
moved.
likes it.
Senator
Okay.
Hanger
Likes
moves,
where we're
Senator
at.
Howell seconds that Surville's bill be rolled into the Wagner bill. All those in favor of doing that signify by saying aye. Aye. Put it on the board. Report the vote, please.
16-0.
Congratulations, Senator Surville. You've done very well.
And Mr. Chairman, Senator Chase also put in two bills on coal ash. If you'd like to roll her second bill into it.
She didn't want to be.
We have.
She is declining that invitation.
She's declining that invitation. Well,
All
then,
right.
Mr.
It's been
Chairman,
moved- previously moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Is there any further discussion?
One quick question.
Yes,
Mr.
sir,
Chairman.
Senator Hanger.
I have a minute to table with y'all. Is there still a requirement in there for 20% recycling on this fly ash?
There's a requirement for 6.8 million tons of coal ash to be recycled. Cubic yards, I'm sorry.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sure.
Any further discussion? I'm sorry, Senator Stewart. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask Senator Wagner, I brought this issue up, commerce and labor, and I'm just still trying to understand it. I understand that largely these are pass-through costs to the ratepayers, whatever it costs to clean up and dispose of this. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Stewart, what I would say is that there is capital expenditures associated with actually creating the landfills. The bulk of the cost, the majority of the cost will be straight pass-throughs. Because of the capital expenditure, it would be treated on the landfills themselves. It would be treated as like any other large capital expenditure that a public utility would pay. If the rates can be recovered, my understanding is that that cost out of a total is estimated to be $3 billion. It's less than $1 billion to construct the three landfills that are being proposed at the current time. So they would receive a rate of return on the capital investment associated with landfills. The rest of the cost, which is the bulk of the vast majority of the cost, will be related to passing to actual real cost incurred moving this into a landfill and dealing with the problem.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stewart.
Thank you. So just so I understand it, are you talking about the return on this is $1 billion, or are you talking about 9% return, which is traditionally their return on an equity or capital project, 9% on the $1 billion?
I'm talking about the 9% on something that would be less than $1 billion. It would be carefully vetted by the SCC, but would represent a capital expense like it would on behalf of a new power plant. The remaining cost to deal with cleaning up the coal ash, moving it to recycling, those aspects would all be dealt with. The cost incurred is what would be passed on to the ratepayers. And I want to emphasize that would be not more than $225 million in a year, which the net impact would not exceed $5 per month on the electric bill in the Dominion service territory.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Senator.
Senator Wagner, you said that this is going to be vetted by the SCC, but in fact, doesn't this bill set the policy and the SCC doesn't have the authority to review it and make a determination?
Mr. Chairman, I would say, yes, it does set the policy, but your question was on return. When they come in with estimates and cost estimates to build the landfills, that issue will be vetted by the SCC, along with any recycling requests would be vetted from the SCC, and to ensure that the most cost-efficient methods are being utilized so that those costs are held to a minimum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions? If not, I believe it has been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1355 be reported with Senator Surville's bill rolled in. If you'd open the roll, please, sir. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Sorry about that. Move to reconsider it.
Okay.
Strike.
Yeah, strike the vote. Yeah.
I apologize. Yes, sir. Thank you. Report the vote, please.
Ayes 14, 0, abstained 2.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Senator Wagner. Thank you, Senator Servell. Next is Senator Locke. Thank you for waiting so patiently, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 1089, and there is a substitute for this bill.
Senator Hanger moves and Senator Howell seconds that the amendment of the nation's substitute be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and the substitute
gotta
is
be a
adopted.
walk-up
Yes, ma'am, if you would be kind enough to share with us what the substitute does. That
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1089, the current statute provides that the Fort Monroe Authority will pay
Excuse me, Senator Locke, I apologize. Staff is asking me if we could pass it by for 5 minutes as they administratively get themselves together. I apologize. I expect it's probably in your interest if we do that. So if you would just wait 5 minutes, that would be very nice.
Gladly.
Senator DeSteph was next on the list. I don't see him here. Senator Peake, can you make your presentation in 5 minutes?
Definitely, most definitely, Mr. Chairman. Certainly with the first bill, which is the underage possession of alcohol, Bill 1037, Mr. Chairman. This provides for the expungement of the arrest and record for someone who is under the age of 21 charged with underage possession after they reach the age of 21, have paid all fines and all costs, and have no other charges or convictions. This would allow, the point of this one is once they've reached the age of 21, they can never commit this offense again. We find it with young people. It comes up on their job searches, and it has been a hindrance for many people graduating college or reaching the age of maturity and then trying to find a job. And so
All right, let's see where we are. In 2018, this bill passed the Senate 14-0. Under Senator McDougal's subcommittee, they considered it. Senator McDougal, do you have any comment?
Mr. Chairman, we actually didn't take these two up, but I have a Senate Bill 1380, and they are the same for the alcohol, different because mine includes marijuana under the age of 21 as well. But I think with the updated fiscal impact statement we got last night, that the fee covers the number of employees. April, Jason, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong.
So the report from the subcommittee, is there a motion, sir?
Mr. Chair, I move that we report it. 1037.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1037 be reported. Any discussion? All those in favor, open the roll.
Roll's open. Aye, 16, no, 0.
Aye, 16, no, 0. Senate Bill 1037 is reported, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We got my next bill. I don't think will take long if you're prepared. Senate Bill 1709, which deals with the ABC laws and the distilleries. And before we begin, Mr. Chairman, I would direct the committee to lines 39. And after distiller, where there's a period, I want to strike the language, the board shall pay a licensed distiller making sales pursuant to this subsection a commission of not less than 20% of the retail price of the spirits sold. Strike that sentence.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt that amendment? Been moved and seconded that the amendment to 1709 as verbally articulated by the senator be adopted. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And the amendment is adopted to 1709.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think that addresses one of the concerns of the distillers with another bill that has gone through. And that leaves us with two main points, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. That's dealing with the previous month's gross bottle sales and the ABC having what they call the net 30, retaining that amount. This forces the distilleries to carry 2 months operating capital while waiting for the first month's revenues to be returned. A second aspect of this involves the ABC's transfer fees. Currently, a distiller pays ABC.
Is there any opposition to the bill? It came out of rehab 15-0. Let's see. Is there anyone in the audience who is here to speak in opposition to the bill? Okay. Senator Newman. Senator Peake, there's a request that we pass it by temporarily so they can catch up on the amendment, so I apologize to you. I don't think there's any harm.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman.
If that completes Senator Peake, if I could just ask the committee to consider one of his other bills that was defeated yesterday briefly for the purpose of reconsideration.
Absolutely, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Senate Bill 1071, which failed to report yesterday on a 16-0 vote, be reconsidered.
There's a second. All those, open the roll. The motion is whether or not to reconsider. Report the vote.
Aye 16, no, 0.
Aye 16, no, 0. Senate Bill 1071 is before us again. Is there a motion to report?
Mr. Chairman, I anticipate that this will have less success today than it had yesterday, or equal or close, but I want it to be recorded voted aye. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll just let others make motions. It is a bill related to keeping the training center at Central Virginia open, and I know the committee had good discussion about it, but I was hoping just to vote in affirmative, sir.
Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Did you make a motion? I did not. Okay. Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, the report of the HHR subcommittee was that we would pass the bill by, but that was the understanding we're going to continue the discussions about closure and the possibility of keeping some limited presence on the site in Madison Heights. So I would move that the bill be passed by.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1071, which is being reconsidered, be passed by. Is there any discussion? If not, if you'd open the roll. Report the vote.
Ayes 13, noes 3.
Ayes 13, no 3. Senate Bill 1071 under reconsideration is passed by for the second time and would not be subject to reconsideration during the balance of the session. All right. April, are we there or not? I think it's what? Senator Hanger.
Mr. Chairman, there is some, I guess, not clarity on the financial impact of this. My notes are showing a potential impact of about, what was it, 700,000? I don't have it right in front of me. Wait a minute, let me look. What's that? Right, and the uncertainty comes from the fact that I certainly am not sure what the amendment did on that. So we may need to attach the clause and work this out.
Oh, that maybe, I think the 20%, by striking that 20%, that took out the $700,000.
Well, we're going to be safe.
I understand.
Right, and
Put
if
clause on it,
you're right,
yes.
which I expect you are,
Yes.
there'll be no problem.
Okay.
Okay, I move the clause.
Is there a second?
Chairman, I
Okay,
just wonder,
Been moved and seconded. Senator Newman. Yes, sir.
do we need the clause if we can figure out between now and the end of?
Sure.
In other words, could
No,
we?
if we want to, if we can figure it out, if we can.
Chairman, could I just have a substitute motion that the bill go by temporarily
Beg your pardon?
How about for the day?
for the day?
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they can get a fiscal
Mr. Chairman.
analysis. Everybody hold down.
Sure, whatever you say.
Let's pass it by for the day so we can get our hands on it.
Okay, that's good.
That'd be fine.
Okay, is there a motion?
So move that we pass the bill by for the day.
It's been moved and seconded, Senate Bill 1709 be passed by for the day to give staff an opportunity to confirm whether or not there's an adverse fiscal impact. All those in favor of passing it by for the day signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, and thank you very much, Senator Peake. Are we ready for Senator Locke's bill? Okay, the substitute is still in transit, Senator Locke. I am sorry. Senator DeStef, we passed you over because you weren't here, but we'll certainly listen to you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you so very much. So I believe we're going to talk about Senate Bill 1237.
Senate Bill 1237.
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. If I may, the easiest way to explain this is at the federal level, when you file your federal taxes, if you itemize and take the higher deduction, under current law.
Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Steph, you perhaps weren't in here when we made the announcement, but all of the tax-related bills, conformity and tax deductions and what have you, are going to be passed by temporarily, and we will address them in a comprehensive bill, hopefully a little later today.
Oh, great.
Senator DeSteffi, you were not in here. We're going to take up part of the calendar on the floor of the Senate, reconvene the Senate Finance Committee, and take up all of the conformity or deconformity bills.
Okay,
I
wonderful,
apologize.
Mr. Chairman. I think my other two went through subcommittee this morning. Are we discussing those now?
Are
1604
they on the
and
calendar this
1151?
morning? I don't think they made the calendar
Okay,
today.
great. Well then, I'm sorry to waste your time. I'll see you this afternoon.
We'll look forward to your presence, sir.
Gentlemen, thank you. Ladies, have a great day.
This, Senator Locke. All right, Senator Locke, we are back with you, and thank you for your patience in waiting.
Okay.
All right. We
Okay.
are back on 1089, and we now have the amendment in the nature of a substitute before us, which I think we adopted, and my question was, what does the substitute do that the original bill
All right.
did not?
Okay, current statute provides that the Fort Monroe Authority pays a payment in lieu of taxes to the city of Hampton for land owned by the Commonwealth at Fort Monroe. The funds for the pilot fee comes from the state in an appropriation. The Fort Monroe Authority is beginning to implement its vision for moving property into the marketplace and intends to do this through long-term leases. The legislation would allow the city of Hampton to assess real estate taxes on long-term lease property as if the property were privately owned and will bill directly to the lessee. As development projects are completed in the next 3 to 5 years, this will effectively reduce the FMA's pilot obligation by moving the responsibility of real estate taxes to the leaseholder. And that's basically what this will do.
All right, does any member of the committee have any questions of Senator Locke regarding Senate Bill 1089, which is an amendment in nature of a substitute? Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor of the bill very briefly? Is there anyone in the audience who is opposed to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, did we adopt a substitute? Did we adopt a substitute?
We did previously, even though we didn't have it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, with the adoption of the substitute, there is no fiscal impact to the state, and I would move it be reported.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that the amendment in the nature of a substitute to 1089 be reported. Any discussion? Hearing none, open the roll. Aye, 16 no zero. The amendment in the nature of substitute 1089 is reported. Thank you for your patience,
Thank you.
ma'am. Senator Stanley, you're next. How long are you going to be? Because I have a bill that a lot of folks are waiting for.
Well. That is the single most greatest thing I've ever heard said from a chairman's chair like that.
Well, I see that you have 4 bills.
Yes, sir. Which one would you like to kill first? Which hopes and dreams would you like to crush? Yeah, you can do it in a block. That's what you used to do.
No, I ask this in seriousness. What do you think the aggregation of time is?
I don't know that I have any witnesses. I think I can do this very
All right.
quickly, and
Well,
I'll move as quickly as possible.
Let's just go chronologically. Senate Bill 1033, sir.
1033, body worn cameras. Mr. Chairman, if it may, you required and asked me to work with the Virginia Supreme Court. We have some changes which are in transit, so I'd ask that that be passed by, if it could be just temporarily.
maybe today, or if you're having another meeting.
We are meeting tomorrow. sir.
Okay, and so if I'd ask that be, because that may put it in a position where the Supreme Court either likes it or doesn't hate it so much, so.
Yeah. All right, next would be 1066, sir.
1066, post-conviction relief. Again, that's another, that's another one, Mr. Chairman, I hate to load up your docket tomorrow, but we've got changes coming from the Supreme Court, and that's in transit, if you wouldn't mind passing that by temporarily. See how fast I am?
All right, we
and-
will, without objection, we will pass 1066
Thank you.
by for the day to take up tomorrow. How about 1330?
1330, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Simply put, 1330 offers that this Commonwealth put up for referendum a question to the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia during the 2019 election cycle, which is simply this. Should the Commonwealth of Virginia expend up to $3 billion in the purchasing of bonds for use in the modernizations of our schools throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia? Ladies and gentlemen, as quickly as I possibly can, because I've talked about this enough, this summer we had a subcommittee that I formed out of the local government committee, which I chair, and we went and toured schools from Fairfax to the Eastern Shore to Norfolk to Southwest and Southside Virginia. And we found a uniform problem, which is that we have deteriorating school infrastructure, which is crumbling. And it is affecting our children's ability to receive a world-class education, which in turn, Mr. Chairman, affects our ability to create a workforce, a 21st century workforce, that will not only sustain the companies that we have in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but bring other industries in with the workforce that we create. Workforce training, we must admit now, starts basically at kindergarten. And the differences are, in Lee County, where a school was built before World War I, there's only one electrical outlet per classroom. They can't even get a whiteboard up there. They have a power strip to try to see if it manages, and they're worried about blowing out the electrical power, because that old building, back in the day, one electrical outlet was probably a luxury more than anything else. In comparison, in Loudoun County, kindergartners are being taught coding. What we have as a result of, based on the infrastructure, the physical plant, is an inequality, an unequal education based on your zip code. And this has to be remedied. When we
All
talk,
right, let's see where we are. I think we've got his question of whether or not we want to take
it will be your running mate.
put the referendum on there. Does any member of the committee have any questions? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak very briefly about it? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to it? Yes, ma'am. Step up, please. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Donna Sy from Portsmouth, and I am so sick and tired of hearing about things that people haven't done for our school system. They aren't doing anything in the school because the organizational structure of the school system is not even in place where we can communicate. No.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we understand your concern. Anyone else? Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I guess in all fairness, I'd like to compliment Senator Stanley for raising awareness of this issue.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Okay. But on the other hand, we don't want to disappoint him, because I even in spite of all his efforts, I don't believe we're ready to advance this in a referendum, so I would move that the bill be passed by.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that the bill be very gently and affectionately passed by. Is there any discussion? If not, if you would open the roll, please.
There's my seatmates.
Ayes 1402.
Well, this was a bipartisan effort to kill this thing, I see. Very nice.
All right.
It's good when you guys can come together and I can help you come together on issues. Yes, they do more than not sometimes.
You also have Senate Bill 1660, sir.
1660 was heard in your committee, your subcommittee. I don't know if you want me to go over it again, but what this was trying to do was to bring parity in terms of our escalating school and college costs. This bill basically allows for a fixed cost for a university in Virginia or a college that's publicly supported in Virginia to have a fixed cost, so that the student or the parent knows that when they enter the college or university on year one, the payment is X, and on year 4, the payment is X. It has a variable in there which allows for schools to make adjustments, so it's not a rock-solid thing. It does have safety valves in cases where there is revenue that is reduced by the General Assembly to those universities and colleges that would allow them to make adjustments. Senator Saslaw and I had a great philosophical discussion about how it could be an accelerated tier program. But what it does is basically keep the uncertainty that parents and students have when they commit to college of what the next cost will be and what the final cost will be. And so hopefully by understanding and being more able and better able to budget those costs, that we're not walking out of college with a degree, but also a mountain of debt.
All right, let's see what the subcommittee had to say about this initiative.
Mr. Chairman, I
Senator
think
Hanger.
Senator Newman may have something to add to this, but this subcommittee did not form a consensus to advance this. So the recommendation of the subcommittee, I would move that the bill be passed by.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1660, consistent with the recommendation of the Education Subcommittee, be passed by indefinitely. Any discussion? Hearing none, if you would open the roll, please.
Thanks, Newman. It's Tui. I am on a roll. 13. Well, that one was better.
13,
14
no, 3. 1702.
1702 comes out of the School Modernization Subcommittee that we formed. And the one thing I can say with regard to Bill 1702 is, one, your subcommittee loved it. And two, what it does is creates a program. It doesn't fund the program just yet. That's up to you guys. But it creates a program by which we can attack the one thing that we saw that was universal, whether it was Fairfax or Southside or Southwest. All the problems with deterioration of our schools starts at the roof line. And a lot of these schools that we have throughout the Commonwealth are flat roofed. And so when the leaking starts, what the school systems start doing is putting tar on it, putting basically a Band-Aid on a gaping head wound. And meanwhile, that moisture comes down through the roof, hits the electrical, hits the plumbing, starts the mold and mildew, starts the black mold, comes through the ceiling tiles. The ceiling tiles are falling on these children's heads while they're learning. They're having to move kids out. The water buckets are there to try to stem the tide and keep the water from hitting the floor. And what it's causing is mass decay from the top down of these schools. What this program would do would be, regardless again of zip code or every school would be eligible. We would fund or use private funds or public-private partnership monies that we would then put in this fund that would be distributed to school divisions to fix these roofs, not just repair them, but to fix them, to put new roofs
All right,
on
let's
these
see what
buildings
the
and sustain
subcommittee
life.
report is.
Mr. Chairman, the subcommittee met. They understand the importance of the bill. It does not require us to fund it, but it does give us an opportunity to fund it at a later time, and also it can receive other gifts and otherwise. And the subcommittee recommended without amendment that the bill be reported.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1702 be reported. Is there any discussion? Senator Hanger.
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman, Senator Stanley, I think obviously no funding, but one of the options I would hope you would consider as you push this through the Assembly is that when you repair those roofs, then they are an ideal surface to put solar panels on there. And the revenues or offsets to costs could actually help pay for that roof.
Mr. Chairman, I would answer Mr. Chairman by saying that's exactly what one of my other bills does, which is allows for solar generation and then for them not only to defray the cost of electric, but also sell that back on the grid to the other utilities.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1702 be reported. If you'd open the roll, please.
I
1600, Senate Bill 1702 is reported.
That's the first 16-0 I've gotten from this committee that wasn't a PBI, so I appreciate it very much, guys. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
1126.
Okay, I think a number of people are gathered here to look at gambling, casino gambling specifically. Senator Lucas has Senate Bill 1126. Senator Norman has done a good bit of work on this after it came out of general laws. And Senator Norman, we want to hear what your project has been.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. Everyone is fairly well informed that there are some bills that are moving through the General Assembly that would legalize casino gaming in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Senator Lucas and Senator Carrico have been advocates of that. Let me start off by saying I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute that I would move be adopted by the committee.
Motion properly supported that we adopt the amendment in nature substitute for, are we dealing with Senate Bill 1126?
I think it's drawn to 1574, sir.
1574.
I apologize. I gave you the wrong.
Okay.
No, excuse me. I don't want the freestanding bill. I want the one to Lucas's bill. So I did give him the right information the first time. It's very easy to confuse me, Lisa. Senate Bill 1126.
Okay, Senate Bill 1126, we are adopting a substitute for Senate Bill 1126. There's a motion properly supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay, Senator
Thank
Norman.
you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start off by saying this, that I am supportive of controlled and responsible gaming legislation that passes the General Assembly with responsible and a deliberate process. I am not anti-gaming. In fact, I am supportive of it. I will editorially say that I reject the arguments that this approach is somehow a panacea or elixir to help some stressed localities, but that's an editorial comment. My concern is this, that once we pass legislation as originally incorporated in 1574, that will be a final decision on whether or not we are moving in the direction of casino gaming in Virginia, and we will have crossed the Rubicon and there's no way coming back. One of the things that struck me as a little unusual about the approach is that there is a study that is included in 1574 by lottery, which, number one, I think is the inappropriate entity to be doing the analysis. But secondly, having the study by lottery in no way is going to be considered, because the referendums on casino gaming are going to go ahead regardless of what the results of any study are going to be. And it makes no sense to me for us to make a very significant policy decision and have a study that is just eyewash. So what I have proposed, Mr. Chairman, is that JLARC will do the study, and I have talked to JLARC, and they are prepared to do the study. I think that they have a more objective approach, but also that they have already had some conversations about obtaining some outside consultants who have expertise in this area. So unlike the lottery situation, was just look at what other states have done, the JLARC will do a study, bring in some experts, but also see how it impacts the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I suggest to your honor, to you, Mr. Chairman, I think that it is a much better process if we have a study, that the General Assembly have the benefit of that study, and then we make the policy decision at that time. So in order to give that opportunity, one of the changes that I have made in 1574 is there is a very limited reenactment clause, and that reenactment clause would pertain to the referendum that would take place after we have received the study. I think this is a much more deliberate process than what was previously suggested, and I don't mean that in any disrespect whatsoever to those that have advocated. I have tried to roll into this substitute some of the provisions that have been taking place in a group that has been discussing it. I have put a provision in there that would require a $1 million capital investment in any casino to make sure that we don't get some honky-tonk kind of situation, and that would be $100 million exclusive of land. I further put a provision in there that hopefully has significantly modified the distribution of a gaming tax. There have been several proposals on that, and I have another bill. But the distribution of any gaming tax that would be adopted, first of all, is going to be based on an escalating scale as opposed to a flat scale that was previously suggested. So if it's less than $200 million in the adjusted gross income, it would be 13%. If it's between 200 million and 300 million, it'll be 14%, and anything over 300 million on adjusted gross income would be 15%. If you look across the country, this is pretty modest. This is pretty modest on it. And so I did add another bill that started with a much higher tax, and I don't want to chill the prospects of this development, but ever since I was in local government, I have always asked myself, what is the public benefit of passing legislation or ordinances? And that is a concern that I have. I get the entrepreneurial capitalistic benefits of it, but what is the public benefit? The public benefit I've tried to restructure, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, and it would provide that the tax that is imposed will be distributed in the following manner. That 30% of the tax that is collected will be distributed between Northern Virginia to deal with a specific challenge that they are having on their transportation up there. Also, the Hampton Roads HR TAC would get a portion of that. And also the Interstate 81 corridor would get a portion of that. So 30% of the tax that is collected would be focused on transportation in the three areas that appear to be under the greatest stress under it. We've heard a lot from Senator Stanley about modernization and school construction. There's not enough money that is available in the literary fund. We did not embrace a concept particularly warmly a moment ago. 30% of the gaming tax would go to school construction and modernization. 10% would go to moderating and trying to ameliorate higher education tuition and fees. 10% would go to the host localities, kind of a payment in lieu of taxes, if you will, because they have to provide services for these facilities. 9% would go to tourism promotion so that we could, if we're going to have these destinations, so that we can promote them and try to bring individuals in. And 1% would go to what is referred to as a problem gaming treatment fund. You're aware under the lottery that we have a lottery situation, and this would basically replicate that. Those are kind of the salient points of it. The pushback that I've got is that some of the gambling industries would prefer not to be rolled into it on Colonial Downs and pari-mutuel betting, which is being promoted by Revolutionary Racing. I grandfathered them to exempt the pari-mutuel from collection on it because that's what a legacy is. But Revolutionary Racing is being pretty aggressive. You will recall we passed historical horse racing, which some have compared to slot machines. It has been brought to my attention that they hope to put 700 of these machines in Colonial Downs. And then there was an article in the newspaper last week that says they're going to put 700 machines into Chesapeake. So these are new products, and I think that they ought to be subject to any gaming tax. The major pushback, and I know that there's some in the audience who are disappointed for a variety of reasons, but the main pushback has been about the delayed enactment because there would be a reenactment clause after the receipt of the JLOC report, and the General Assembly would have to reenact the authorization of the referendums. So in essence, it would basically delay it for a year. I don't intend to make everybody happy. I am not anti-gaming, but I just think that the approach that has been offered can be improved in a more deliberate manner. And just like Senator Wagner stood up here, I am a lobby of one.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Norman. First, Senator Ruff, of course, this went through your committee initially. You had some thoughts about, I think, making sure the study was done appropriately before we actually move forward. Is Do you have any reaction to the substitute right now?
I think Senator Norman has put together a pretty good package. I see no problem with any of the localities doing a referendum in hopes, but I don't think it should be binding. And that would be my only concern, is that some of them wanted to move forward, and let them be on the dime rather than us.
Okay, all right. Senator Norman, I see his administration secretary's here. Do you like to get?
Secretary Lane has been waiting patiently. I don't know what he's going to say. If he isn't going to say
Okay.
something supportive, I don't want to hear from him.
I think you'll let me come up here.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Secretary
Chairman.
Lane.
Mr. Chairman, while I can't take the governor will take a no position on the bill, I can advocate on behalf of the approach and the study. We've been consistent, the governor has been, that we ought to know what we're doing before we allow this major public policy to go forward in the Commonwealth. In fact, just listening to the discussion this morning, the whole idea of public benefit, what the chairman has in his bill, and the risk we're taking. For instance, the question is of the sports betting. There's no way that Virginia Lottery is going to take the book on sports betting to get to 100%. It would administer it, but it can't take that. So there's lots of discussions on financial regulation, on the regulatory structure, how we're going to do this, the social concerns, and the unintended consequences, which the chairman talked about with the bill that was passed last year and these number of the slot machines or pari-mutuel betting machines out there. So while no position, we certainly do advocate the approach. It's consistent with the governor in terms of making sure we know what we're doing before we move forward.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being succinct.
Mr. Aubrey.
Senator Saslaw has a question, I believe.
Has anybody got any factual information on what Maryland is getting from MGM at National Harbor with respect to slot machines and table games?
I'm sure they do, sir.
Jason seems to have some info. What's that, Jason?
Big
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslaw, I believe it's around $425 million a year.
Right.
I can't hear you.
About 20.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslaw, I believe it's around $425 million a year.
A year?
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
In taxes?
No. Yeah, well, yeah.
So what's the percentage that they're getting on slot machines?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslaw, I believe their tax rate on slots is 50%.
Of the gross?
I believe that is correct.
And what about table games?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslaw, I am uncertain on table games, but it is less than 50. I think it might be somewhere in the 15 to 30%, but I can get that information for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it seems that we really are letting them off light.
Well, I think that's, like I say, Senator Saslaw, we agree with the approach. I think this study may shed some other things.
Right.
And the key to this is no action takes before the study's done.
Right,
And that's what I
okay.
think is
Right,
key
right.
to make sure we get this right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
There, all right, Senator Norman, I'm going to ask just broadly. I know we don't have the time here to open up a broad discussion of this, but in terms of where we've been, because I know many of you that are proponents and maybe opponents have not seen the full content of this because I was witnessing it being put together late last night. But it has been thought through, though. Is there anyone who wants to speak at this time in support or opposition? Okay, well, yes, ma'am. Are you have a very short remark like you did the last time?
I've got a report for y'all.
Okay, we'll read that later, but what, you for or against?
I'm against.
Okay, good. That's all we need to know.
That's all. That's
Just
all.
sit down.
That's all we need to know, right? And not to cut you short, but I would.
I got a report on why.
Okay, all right. Thank you. It appears that those that are engaged in this conversation are willing to continue the conversation if we advance this bill. I would tell you where I'm at.
Mr. If I could add that.
Yes, Senator Norman.
And I say to the proponents of it, I am really not trying to stop this. Senator Saslaw, I talked with some of the champions of this, and that's how that tax structure came up. And I am very aware. I had staff look at every state in the union on how they're doing that. And it was suggested to me that there's some profit margins that are consideration at that age, the adjusted gross revenue. And it is probably hard for some of you that are advocates of this I really am trying, in the overall context of the legislative process, to keep this moving.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Lucas?
Yes, I understand what Senator Norman is trying to do, but I just need a little bit of clarity on delayed enactment or reenactment. Which did you tell me?
It is a reenactment. My thought is we get the JLARC to do the study. The JLARC will render the study, and then the reenactment will only take place as to the authorization of the referendums.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Senator Lucas?
Okay, what effect would that have on the referendum, Senator Norman?
I'm sorry?
What effect would that have on the referendum itself?
The referendums would be postponed until the receipt of the JLARC report. In essence, it would move it to July 1, 2020, I believe.
Okay. All right. Senator Carrico?
So, Mr. Chairman, just to speak about the reenactment opposed to delay enactment.
Yes, sir.
The thing that concerns me about reenactment, as you all know, we come back here, we vet this whole thing over again. We have to pass it again in order for it to go in place after the study's done. Living on border states and where other states are moving at a rapid rate to do things in Kentucky, Tennessee, for me, the reenactment delays things to the point where the investment may not be meanable at that point in time because we're shoving everything down the road. I would like to see a delayed enactment, but yet be able to move forward with the referendum process, because my whole essence of this whole bill of bringing it forward is give the people I represent the opportunity to speak on this issue to see if it is a meanable way that they want to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very respectful of what Senator Carrico said, and we just have a difference of opinion. I appreciate the referendum as a reflection of your constituency, but I think we as the legislative body make the policy determination. And there is no way that we can make an informed policy decision in the absence of having some kind of study indicating what the impact is on the Commonwealth of Virginia. If we put a delayed enactment, let's don't even study it, because it's not going to have any bearing on it whatsoever. Zero. And I can't understand on an issue of this paramount importance why we would not want to make an informed and deliberate decision. It escapes me.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Carrico?
I could probably make that same argument. Why are we going to study it if the people reject the referendum? When nothing's going to happen.
We just have a different perspective,
Right,
Mr.
okay.
Chairman.
I think where we're at, and particularly with the time element, that this is a part of a process. From my standpoint, Senator Norman, with your efforts, I think the reenactment is a good thing, so to make sure the study actually means something. I come, as Senator Carrico normally would, with reservations about casino gambling to start with. So I think it gives us kind of a timeout, take a breath, let's make sure this is going to work right. So what's the pleasure of the committee?
I would move to that the amendment of the nature substitute be reported, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Abushane.
Parliamentary inquiry. Have we adopted the substitute?
Yes.
We did? Okay.
Yes, we did. We had a little confusion about which bill we were amending, but we've cleared that up. Senate Bill 1126. Okay, was there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1126, amendment in nature substitute. Clerk, open the roll. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 4.
Ayes 12, noes 4. Senator Lucas, Senator Norman, Senator Carrico, the bill is reported.
I appreciate the committee's indulgence, and let me say this. The discussion is not concluded. I am prepared to continue the discussion, so I just wanted to say that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Ruff had a bill with a number of people here, and I'd like, if it wouldn't take too long, to go ahead. Senator Mason, you're there as well. Senator Ruff, is yours going to take long, or? Okay.
What's the ETA of getting out of here?
No, I wanted to clear those, the patrons here. Probably 10 more minutes. You need to get away.
There's going to be some in caucus that need to talk about it.
Senator Ruff,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1688, that's not right.
1688.
That's correct. What this bill does is it requires, whenever someone submits a proposal for a construction project, which is not competitively bid, of over $4 million, it must include the disclosure in their proposal as to all donations or gifts made by the offerer and any affiliated entity and any one of their respective officers, directors, managers, members over the last 5 years. This is a transparency bill. Because these procurements are not based on competition, I believe that understanding what these contractors are giving to college foundations are extremely important. The taxpayers deserve the openness to this process.
Okay, I think we've got some supporters here. Okay, if y'all would like to speak briefly to this.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Benke with the Virginia Contractor Procurement Alliance. We support the bill. Thanks, Senator Ruff, for putting the bill in.
Okay, yes.
Yes, sir. We did a detailed FOIA of this information over the past 9 years, $5 billion of spent for procurement. $4.7 billion of that was done non-competitive bids. And this just brings sunshine to the process that, a process that presently being used that's basically subjective based on a resume.
Okay, thank you very much. Someone else to speak in support?
Yes, sir. Tom Evans, general contractor. I'd just like to point out that half of the Commonwealth's debt capacity is with higher education. And I think it's important that when you use a method of procurement other than competitive sealed bidding, that we have the utmost of transparency, and the citizens of the Commonwealth can see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone here opposed to this bill? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report. Second.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1688. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Clerk, close the roll. I-16 no zero. The bill is reported. If we've had patrons sitting there, Senator Ruff, did you have anything else that needed to be cleared, or can?
Mr. Chairman, there is another bill, but we hopefully can hear that this afternoon.
Okay.
It's not quite ready.
Tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon?
Whenever we meet again.
Okay, all right, that'll be good. That'll be good.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I had an expungement bill that was similar to Senator Peak's that went out already. If you want to move that, there's similar topics.
Wasn't in conflict, you were just adding another category?
Mine was broader than his.
Okay, we probably should have rolled them together, but that would be fine.
Mr. Chairman, last year we sent the two policies forward because the House might not think the same way we do.
Gotcha.
We wanted to give them choices.
Okay. All right.
They're not in conflict with each other.
Okay, that bill number again?
It's 1360.
1380. 1380. All right, everyone understand that bill. You making a motion, Senator McDougal?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Motion properly supported that Senate Bill 1380 be reported. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Good Louise. Sure.
Clerk close the roll. Okay. I'm sorry, the bill is reported 15-0. Okay. Senator Norman. Okay. All right, we've got, are y'all's bills going to be quick? Who was next up here? Senator Boyski?
Boysko is next.
Senator Boysko?
Yes, this is SB 1645. In committee, it was amended so that we were requesting the Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security would convene a work group to.
Okay. I believe that's good.
I believe it's good too, and we just got a fiscal impact that they would need $250,000 to bring in a
do the data
consultant.
collection?
to do it. They said they needed a consultant.
Hold
So
a
clearly,
second here.
since the scope of
I
the bill
hadn't noticed that
slightly
fiscal impact.
changed, I'd also be open to moving it to another body if that would be appropriate. But I think the bill itself has merit.
Stewart.
Okay, I think, Senator Boysko, we're going to have to put the clause on this.
Okay.
And I apologize for that, a little bit of confusion on this. Motion properly supported that the Senate Bill 1645, that we add the financial contingency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, what's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1645 as amended.
Frank.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. I move it. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 8, noes 7. The bill is reported with the financial contingency clause.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Boysko. Senator Mason?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 1681, and I think I got a get-out-of-jail card this morning, so you might want to check that one. It's a process for disposing of surplus property of the state. We just walked through a process, how we work with local economic development officials, and this morning they delivered a no-impact statement to us. But I'm happy to go through it if you'd like.
Okay, Senate Bill, I apologize, I'm just not keeping
1681,
up
I'm
with my
sorry, sir.
paperwork here.
It had an indeterminate. This morning it had a none. Because the initial one was on the original bill, we substituted the bill. And so
Okay.
as they updated the report, it says now it has no impact.
Okay, okay. I've confirmed that that is correct. What is the pleasure of the committee to Senate Bill 1681? Motion properly supported to report 1681. Clerk, open the roll. Clerk, close the roll. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Second one is Senate Bill 1418, which is a re-registration schedule for the registered sex offender list. It has a fiscal impact because it is correct. Currently, the state police cannot do this. Their system does not allow it, but they are currently have just gone out with an RFP that the new system would be able to allow it. We pushed the enactment clause to July of 20 to take into consideration that RFP and a new system that could actually do it this way.
Okay. Without me looking it up here, does that avoid the fiscal impact doing that?
It's got a delayed enactment on
Okay, good, good.
Nice try.
Like that. We're in good shape on this bill.
Oh, good.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Thanks, sir.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1418. Clerk, open the roll. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 15, no zero. Ayes 15, no zero.
Thank you,
Bill
Mr.
is
Chairman,
supported.
members of the committee.
Senator Suderland? Your bill simple? I apologize, I haven't looked ahead.
I've got 4 bills, 2 of which I think are coming with unanimous recommendations from subcommittee.
Yes, okay.
I don't know if you've.
We'll take care of those through the
separately.
subcommittee report.
So those are the CSA and ADM bills.
Right.
So I've got 2 other bills. Senate Bill 1581. This seeks to codify the governor's executive order number 12 of 2018, Governor Northam's executive order providing parental leave benefits to state employees. This, the reason I'm carrying this bill is because I've been trying to get adoption leave benefits for state employees for 3 years in a row now. The Senate has favorably acted every year, and this committee's been very supportive. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten as much support on the other end.
Okay, apparently, Senator Suderline, this would just codify existing state policy. There would be no fiscal impact. You've been working on this for several years.
I'd move to report, sir.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1581. Clerk, open the roll. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 14, no zero. The bill is reported. One more bill, Senator Zuliman?
Yes, sir. Senate Bill 1703, this deals with the governor's correspondence and other records after leaving the governor's mansion. It would provide that they are to be made available within a year after the date of delivery of such records. As a lot of you know, Governor McAuliffe's records, Governor McAuliffe left in January of 2018. They are not available. Neither are his predecessor, Governor McDonnell, who left in January of 2014. And when Tim Kaine ran for vice president, his records weren't available, even though they're not, even though he's been elected to the Senate twice now. So that's what this does. There's a little difference of thoughts on the financial part of it, and that's why we're here.
Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Norman?
Under the information we have, it seems to have a fiscal impact, and I want to be certain that we can absorb that. So I'd respectfully move we put the financial contingency clause on that, sir.
Is there a second? Motion properly supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. With the clause, what's the pleasure
I
of the
move to
committee?
report as amended.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1703 as amended. Further discussion? Seeing none, clerk open the roll. All right, clerk close the roll.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. Senator Vogel, was that the last of yours?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much then. Senator Vogel, you had a quick one, I believe, with some people here on autism.
I'm giving you our proxy. I need to get some stuff for the session.
Okay, we may conclude on this one too, unless if you need to get on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was hoping it would not take the committee more than a minute or two to consider this because it's been heard in another committee and there were people here and I didn't want them to have to have made this trip for no reason.
Okay.
What you have before you is Senate Bill. It's
1693?
1693, sorry about that. I
Okay.
got a bunch here
Page
for you.
21. Okay.
1693, it provides health insurance coverage for the diagnosis and treatment of autism. You all have heard this before. What this bill does is it applies that to a person at any age. Currently, we are capped at 10. And I know we're not supposed to refer to what it is that the other body does or what action that they take, but they have taken similar action and really pushed that out there in a really public way and have accomplished something that I know a lot of us in the Senate have worked on for a long time and have hoped to accomplish for families who really need that health insurance coverage beyond
Okay.
that early
Okay.
age. Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, and are there people here that came here to support this that would like to make a brief statement?
Thank you. I'll be brief, sir. I'm Judith Ursetti. I'm Director of State Government Affairs for Autism Speaks. We've been working on this with all of you for many years, and we fully support this bill.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mark Lobel, grandparent of Mark III, great kid with autism who's 14, founding member of the Virginia Autism Project and now the Virginia Autism Foundation. We support this bill. There's a bunch of families in Virginia that would get a bunch of benefit out of this legislation, and we ask for your support.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Others, anyone here in opposition to this?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Sure, Senator Newman.
Maybe Senator Vogel, is this going to cover ERISA programs or state programs? I know in the past that's been the conflict, is that we pass a bill like this and it only impacts the mandated Virginia benefit, which doesn't cover more than 2/3 of the people of Virginia. How is this one structured?
So my understanding is that that is covered. Is that correct? And, yeah, sorry, she's going to answer that question.
Yes.
If you don't mind, sir, I'd love to answer that question. I'm Judith from Autism Speaks. So the ERISA plans are federally regulated, so we cannot pass a law in Virginia that would affect them. However, 50% of ERISA plans now cover this already. We keep working on that on the side. They're adding that voluntarily in their plans. More than 10,000 Virginians will be affected by this bill. 1.4 million Virginians have state-regulated large group coverage.
Thank you.
So this is going to help a lot of people.
Senator Newman? Okay. All right. Okay, we have a note of concern here from the people who underwrite this.
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Doug Gray from the Virginia Association of Health Plans. Any age could mean anything. I mean, we don't really know what that means. The services, medical services for autism have been mandated under the statute for more than 20 years. And this bill doesn't deal with that. What this bill really does is deal with extending the age on applied behavioral analysis, and it's capped at $35,000 for the year, and it also has an age cap of 10. The state goes through age 18 right now. Going to 18 would be fine. Actually, the statute that covers all of the services, medical services, not ABA, has a definition of a child, and it goes to 19. So that is in the ballpark, but any age creates a new obligation for all of the large group plans for someone coming up with a new service and a new way to apply applied behavioral analysis for people who are not really children. And so if you're going to match up with what the state health plan does, which is really the policy of the Commonwealth, then I would suggest you probably pick an age like 18 or 19 or 21, but you don't say any age. So that's just some input.
Okay. Senator Wagner, y'all addressed this in Commerce and Labor.
We did, Mr. Chairman, and I believe the vote was unanimous, was it
Unanimous.
not? It was unanimous out of Commerce and Labor. We looked at the issues. We certainly heard from Mr. Gray and those in the industry, but looked at the overall fiscal impact and chose to report it unanimously, and I would so move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion properly supported that the bill, Senate Bill 1693, be.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, Jill, as you know, I'm very sympathetic. I think the concern is that we're only getting a smaller number. It's non-ERISA, non-state, and that is the group right now that the premiums are unaffordable. And I know you can't fix that, but have an undetermined amount of increase on some people that are currently paying $35,000 a year for the health insurance in the independent market. And I know Senator Donovan and others are trying to fix that. I just don't know how we do it. I mean, if we had a number that was certain that we could get a fiscal on it, that would be more helpful. So I'm just going to vote no, and maybe we can work that out between now and the floor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Donovan.
I'll just say that we looked at this last year, and we looked at it to 18, and that the fiscal impact was almost unappreciable. And I think that is a way to contain it that's within a reasonable fiscal impact, and it also allows to be consistent with what is clinically evident, which is for children mostly for this particular therapeutic modality.
Mr. Chair, if I could respond, we have the new fiscal impact with no cap, and that is $21,000 a year.
And that is general fund implication, not the
Right.
cost.
I just wanted to make that point.
Right.
Because.
But not the cost to the individuals paying health insurance.
Right,
And
I understand.
as we raise every mandated benefit in Virginia, we raise premiums for everybody in Virginia. And I think there's a willingness for everybody to, help and participate in that for the 10,000 that will benefit. But the question is the uncertainty of any age. I'm just surprised by that language. I thought we were still at 18 or 19 as we'd spoken about last year.
Okay.
Well, the kind of train left the station on any age, and I have been an advocate for providing coverage for people of any age and was always willing to compromise. But I am extremely excited that the folks on the other side of the aisle have exuberantly and unanimously embraced any age. And I feel like that, it's a public policy decision that we have to make, and you're balancing the interests and the costs. And I just feel like that these families are a priority, and I think that it is well worth adopting the policy.
Senator
But
Vogel,
I defer to the
think
committee.
Senator Newman and Senator Donovan have raised legitimate concerns. However, it came to us with unanimous recommendation, Commerce and Labor. We're looking at $21,500 general fund per year, and I think we can handle that. So I would think we could advance it, but the conversation probably needs to be continued here as we work.
Right, and I can only, and I understand Senator Donovan's issue and absolutely appreciate that, but I can only deal with what's directly in front of me, and that's the $21,000 to our general fund, and the fact that I think as a policy matter, it's really important that we provide this coverage.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 1693. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
I guess he would be out, yeah. Clerk, oh, maybe I do. Oh, no, I don't. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 2.
Ayes 12, noes 2. The bill is reported. All right, are there other members that have a bill that they want to try? We're out of time, obviously. Is that okay? Okay. I would say we probably will just have to defer on those. I think they're primarily subcommittee reports that we'll be taking up tomorrow afternoon. In addition, we will have the special meeting that was announced to deal with revenue resources when we take a break in the floor today. No further business. The committee will adjourn.